The first sign that something was wrong wasn't the racing thoughts, or the sleeplessness, or even the way her chest tightened every time her phone buzzed. It was the moment Maya, the girl who once solved complex equations in minutes and read entire books in a weekend, stood in her kitchen staring at a simple text message from her friend, and felt her stomach drop as if she were facing a life-or-death decision. And the sentence that echoed in her mind was one she'd never said out loud. "Why does someone as smart as me feel this anxious?" If you stay with me through this story, you're going to understand why this happens, and why being highly intelligent often comes with a hidden layer of emotional pressure most people never see. Maya wasn't always like this. For years, intelligence had been her armor. Teachers praised her. Friends relied on her. She handled life like a chessboard, always planning 10 steps. But intelligence is a double-edged sword, and hers quietly became a blade pointed inward. One evening, she sat in her car outside her apartment, hands trembling, unable to open the door. Nothing terrible had happened that day. No crisis, no tragedy, just 100 small decisions, 1,000 micro-observations, and a brain that never stopped analyzing. By the time she reached her driveway, she was exhausted, not from life, but from her own mind. This is the part most intelligent people never talk about. The way the world assumes competence means emotional invincibility. The way being the smart one becomes a role, not a trait. Quiet pressure, a silent expectation. And the more Maya excelled, the more she believed she had something to lose. Anxiety doesn't always show up with dramatic panic attacks. Sometimes it's subtle, hidden inside perfectionism, rumination, and overthinking. And that's exactly where her story begins. Because on that particular night, Maya finally asked the question she had avoided for years. Why does my brain, this brain that helps me understand everything, struggle so much to understand me? Here's what most people don't know. Highly intelligent minds are wired to notice patterns, detect risks, and imagine possibilities. Wonderful for creativity, problem-solving, and innovation. But that same wiring can make reality feel overwhelming, uncertain, or dangerous, even when nothing is wrong. In fact, one of the biggest predictors of anxiety is not fragility, but cognitive sensitivity. Intelligent people rarely talk about this because they assume their anxiety is a personal failure. But it's not. It's biology. It's weird. It's the brain doing what it does best, just at the wrong times. As Maya sat in her car, the science of what she was feeling was unfolding beneath the surface. Highly intelligent brains have stronger connectivity between the prefrontal cortex, the rational, analytical part, and the limbic system, the emotional alarm center. This makes them excellent at predicting outcomes, but also more vulnerable to imagining worst-case scenarios with vivid detail. They don't just think about what might go wrong. They can see it, feel it, and simulate it. Their emotional brain reacts to those imagined threats as if they're real. So Maya wasn't weak. She was activated, overstimulated. Her mind was doing too much. When she finally opened the car door and stepped into her apartment, something unexpected happened. She dropped her bag, sat on the carpet, and began to cry. Not because she was sad, but because she was tired. Tired of carrying the invisible weight of being the one who always had it together. Emotional burnout is common among high performers, especially those who don't share their struggles. Intelligent people often live inside their heads, analyzing every feeling instead of expressing it. They ask themselves, "Why am I like this?" instead of "What do I need right now?" And that moment on the apartment floor was the first time Maya allowed herself to need something. What she didn't know is that people like her, highly intelligent, emotionally aware, introspective, often fall into a trap. They rely on thinking to solve emotional problems. But emotions aren't equations. You can't analyze your way out of anxiety. In fact, the more you think about your anxiety, the worse it becomes. It's like shining a flashlight into your own eyes. Yet there's something deeper here. Many intelligent people grew up learning that their worth came from their mind. Maybe they were praised for being gifted. Maybe they found safety in knowledge when life felt chaotic. Maybe thinking became their version of control. When that happens, intelligence becomes a shield. And anxiety is what leaks through the cracks. Maya eventually called her mother and whispered, "I don't think I'm okay." It was the most intelligent thing she had done in years. Because anxiety often thrives in secrecy, and healing begins the moment you share it. But the real turning point came 2 weeks later when she walked into her first therapy session. She sat across from a quiet, calm therapist who said something that felt like a key unlocking a long-jammed door. Your anxiety is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign that your brain cares deeply about the world around you, and about getting things right. In that moment, she realized something that many intelligent people never see. Anxiety is not the enemy. It's a messenger. As therapy went on, she learned that her anxiety had roots. Roots in childhood perfectionism. Roots in the pressure to succeed. Roots in emotional sensitivity she had never acknowledged. Intelligent minds feel deeply. Far more deeply than most people realize. They notice the subtle shifts in tone, the micro-expressions, the hidden implications. This sensitivity, combined with analytical depth, can create a psychological storm. It's not just thinking too much. It's processing too much, absorbing too much, anticipating too much. And yet, intelligence also gave Maya the tools to heal. Her brain could understand patterns, so she learned her own. Her mind could make connections, so she traced the threads of her emotions. Therapy didn't teach her how to be less intelligent. It taught her how to let her intelligence serve her instead of overwhelming her. One afternoon, as she left a therapy appointment, she sat under a tree and noticed something surprising. Her thoughts were quiet, not silent but softer, less demanding. For the first time in years, her mind felt like a companion instead of a threat. And she realized something. Anxiety is often a sign that you've outgrown your coping strategies, but you haven't yet learned new ones. Highly intelligent people often struggle because they've built their lives on logic, but emotions require surrender. They've built their identity around competence, but healing requires vulnerability. They've built habits of self-sufficiency, but anxiety requires connection. And that's when everything clicked for her. The moment that changed Maya's entire relationship with anxiety happened during a particularly difficult week. She was lying awake at 2 a.m., heart racing, mind running through every unfinished task. She kept telling herself to calm down, to think rationally, to problem solve, but it wasn't working. And then she heard her therapist's voice in her mind. Your thoughts are not threats. They're signals. So she did something she had never done before. She placed a hand on her chest and whispered, "You're safe." Not to her mind, but to her body. The anxiety softened. Just a little, but enough. Because intelligent people often forget that their brain is not the only part of them. Anxiety lives in the body. Healing begins in the body. This was the most dramatic shift of her entire journey. Not a moment of crisis, but a moment of understanding. Her intelligence wasn't the source of her anxiety. Her intelligence simply gave her a clearer view of what she had ignored for years. From that day forward, Maya practiced something she once thought was impossible. She let her mind rest. She allowed mistakes. She embraced uncertainty. She showed herself the compassion she had always reserved for everyone else. And here's the part one want you to remember. Highly intelligent people don't struggle with anxiety because they're incapable. They struggle because they're aware. They see too much, feel too much, think too deeply. And when that depth isn't guided with emotional care, it turns inward. But when it is guided, something powerful happens. Intelligence becomes intuition. Sensitivity becomes strength. Anxiety becomes insight. And the mind that once felt like a cage becomes a compass. So if you've ever wondered why your brilliant brain seems to turn against you, know this. It's not broken. It's overworked. It's trying to protect you. And you can teach it more healthily. You can learn to regulate your nervous system. You can learn to pause instead of spiraling. You can learn to support yourself the way you support others. And you can absolutely learn to thrive. If this story resonated with you, don't walk this journey alone. Learning about your brain is one of the most empowering steps you can take. And if you want more stories, more science, and more tools to understand your mind, make sure you stay connected. Your healing begins with awareness. And you took that step just by being here,